Hello friends and welcome. Patch 7.35c came out last night. I've been playing a bunch like a degenerate and now I am here to share my day one impressions and highlights with you. Helm of the Iron Will getting a small nerf here to the armor along with Veil and Shiva's further down here. This was one of the most popular items in the patch. So the Veil itself, I think, is probably still fine if people want to buy. It is a little bit worse, but whatever. I think Shiva's, this recipe cost is really expensive, and so you might see people just buy Veil and not finish the Shivas unless they think it's a really good Shiva's game, but that's going to hurt several of the popular heroes who like that build. Helm of the Iron Will, many people were rushing this item to help them sustain to the lane before getting like the Veil or boots first, stuff like that. So that build is just nerfed. That's going to hurt many of the popular offlaners. Orb of Venom has been kind of replaced by Blood Grenade as a cheaper, consumable, long-ranged version that could hit multiple heroes at once. So no one was really building Orb of Venom. It is losing 25 gold on the cost, and that is going to make it easier to, say, buy Orb of Venom and then still afford another Iron Branch or Sentry, which doesn't sound like a lot, but don't overestimate that. Those small items at the start do have a huge impact on the lane, which then affects the rest of the game. So I myself, and I have seen other people trying out Orb of Venom, but I'm not fully sure. It needs more testing, but I think it's a good direction for the item. 5% more evasion on the Talisman of Evasion, and then therefore the items it builds into, like Halberd and Radiance. We're gonna get into those in a bit, but I have seen the win rates on heroes that build those items go up a little bit, so it is adding up. Voodoo Mask, small buff there. I don't think it's a huge deal. BKB, 10% more magic resistance when active. Doesn't sound like a lot, but 20% increase relative to what it did before, which is quite nice, especially considering the last patch felt like a patch of spellcasters and countering those spellcasters. So like a lot of Shiva's builders, a lot of Mage Slayers as a response to that. So BKB now going to be better versus those spellcasters if that continues. Bloodstone is having its recipe changed to a Void Stone, so it will now provide 3 mana regen. And it didn't provide mana regen after the last change where you used to get mana based on how much damage you dealt when you activated it. That's still gone. But having flat mana regen is nice for the types of heroes that want to build Bloodstone, but I'm still not sure who that is. It is still an item whose identity feels a little weird, and I'm going to let the core players figure that out. I've never built a Bloodstone as a support player. Cost on the Bloodthorn, a little bit down. I don't think it's a huge deal. Damage down a little bit as well, but I think it's still a strong build-up. If you're already going to get Orchid, then like it's just a late-game upgrade that you can get. Dagon, I think the big thing here is that the cooldown is going down by 8 seconds at level 1, and you can use Energy Burst to instantly kill a creep. So you could use it to fight, you could get more spell lifesteal off this now flat 15% at all levels, but if no fighting's going on, you just like instantly kill a hard camp creep. Maybe you counter like Chen and Enchantress because they still seem good. I think I've seen some people try it out. I don't know if it's actually good or not, but I think it could be interesting. Diffusal and Disperser were huge items in the last patch. Diffusal is now going to cost 25 mana every time you activate it, so that's going to hurt. A hero like Pangolier, who's already a bit mana constrained, he was one of the best Diffusal builders. It's usually like agility heroes, right? And agility heroes don't have the best mana pools. So ironic, the item that burns mana is now going to cost mana and strain them. Disperser is changing a little bit. I'm actually not sure if this is a nerf. Okay, the gold increase, that part's a nerf. But the suppress active is changing. It's no longer AoE, which I think is good as a whole. It is not as good on a hero like Meepo, who could get every Meepo out. When you use it on, like Meepo, the main Meepo uses it on another Meepo. Those two get the speed boost and they run away, but the other Meepos are stuck behind. So obviously worse when you are using it on a lot of heroes. But I think it's better for a hero like Slark or Ursa, because before you had to choose, do I use it on myself? Do I use it on the enemy? Now you will get both. So when they use it on their target, that target is slowed down and they themselves are sped up to chase after them. So that's really good for them, but illusion heroes like Naga Siren maybe don't want to do that because part of the benefit is like, ooh, which one am I? And then you try to use Disperser on the enemy and one Naga Siren starts running a lot faster. It's like, which Naga's the real Naga? I don't know, right? So I think it's going to be less popular on that type of hero, but more popular on the like one-on-one chase heroes. Eternal Shroud is losing 50 health, while Heart of Tarask is gaining 5 strength. Eternal Shroud was just way more popular. Pretty much everyone's building it instead of Heart of Tarask because Heart got nerfed in the past. Now I think they're trying to get it closer together. So it's like, oh, I need health and magic resistance. I'll go Eternal Shroud. Or it's like, oh, I want strength, health, and regen, then like Heart Tarask is better. Small buff to Gleipnir, don't think it's huge. Heaven's Halberd, and actually I'm just going to go ahead and lump all this together. So Sanj, Kaya, and Yasha all got buffs across the board. Yasha just to the price, but Sanj and Kaya to the actual stats. And then the combo items all got slightly buffed in the different things they offered. Halberd with the evasion also got that. So all of these items are looking better, and no one was really building them because everyone was getting like Mage Slayers and Diffusals and stuff like that instead. But right now they're looking good. I would say Sanj and Kaya, or Sanj and Yasha currently looking the best on maybe those right-clicking heroes with high lifesteal, high regen, so maybe the strength ones. Actually, some agility. Yeah, I don't know. Agility or strength carries, they both look good with this item potentially. Not fully sure, but that's the rough feeling I have right now. Halberd sounds good on the people who want to build it. They're going to be very hard to kill to physical damage because they have high evasion, and then they're just like very high regen. Helm of the Overlord is a bit funny, so it's getting buffed, which encourages like zoo meta type heroes, but Vlad's actually got nerfed. So the aura is weaker. Whoever builds Vlad still gets all the same stats, but the aura is weaker, so those people only get 2 armor instead of 4 and just 1 mana regen. I think the mana is not a huge deal, but the armor for the whole like early tempo push for armor is a huge deal at that point. So that's a little funny. I do think Vlad's was really good, and actually just toning it down a little bit is fair. So maybe people will still buy Vlad's, and then that works out with the Helm of the Overlord, but this was not a very popular item for a while here. It was more like Shiva's. So maybe as Shiva's drops off, maybe we'll see some zoo heroes, but it is funny that this is buffed while Vlad is nerfed. 50 more damage on Konda Sniper, let's go! But really just whoever wants to build Konda, it's just a little bit better. The people who don't want Konda are still not going to build it. Mage Slayer, you've seen multiple of these every single game. 200 more gold, less stats from what it offers. The debuff damage is actually going up, but the duration's going down. And this is the huge deal, especially for heroes like Ember and Winter Wyvern, who have an easy time applying it from afar, applying it to a lot of heroes, and it lasts for 6 seconds, and that hero just does 40% less spell damage for 6 seconds. Now it is a much shorter duration, so a hero like Ember can't just permanently apply it throughout the fight, and 3 seconds is a lot easier, whereas like 6 seconds you get hit, and you're like, I don't use my spells, but like 6 seconds so long, so I just gotta do it. 3 seconds, you can like step out of the fight for a little bit, hide a little bit. It's less time where the enemy can just look to like reapply another 6 seconds debuff on you. So you like wait a little bit, it fades, and then you go in with the full spell combo, whatever. So I think Mage Slayer as a generic, just apply it to everyone, just debuff everyone. That dropped, but Mage Slayer is still good at what it offers, which is like, I am trying to kill this Timber Saw, and I am sticking to this Timber Saw. So the fact that it's a shorter debuff duration doesn't matter because you just keep reapplying it. And in fact, the debuff damage going up is actually a little nicer in that situation. It is worse straight up because it got nerfed and like the cost and all that. But I think as a stick on the hero item, it is still very good in the right games. Still don't know who's going to build Meteor. Monkey King, a little cheaper, which is good since evasion's going up. Nullifier Projectile is going to go faster, harder to react to that, dodge it. Orb of Corrosion, a little bit cheaper thanks to the Orb of Venom. I'm surprised. Like, I think this item's pretty good, especially if we see people building more Sanjes, for example. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more Orb of Corrosion pickups because it's easier to work Orb of Venom into the build, and then you like finish up Orb of Corrosion, and it counters the then like potential rise in like Sanj pickups. So keep an eye out on that. Orchid is 200 gold cheaper. That's great for a tempo item. I expect to see some Orchid rushes. Parasma's now got a 400 gold recipe, which I think is fair. A couple heroes like Puck and OD sometimes build this item really quickly, but it feels like it's supposed to be a late game item. So I think it's fine to add a little bit more gold to it and nerf the intelligence bonus a little. Been seeing Radiance builders have an increase in win rate. They're just harder to kill once they actually finish this item. Revenant's Brooch, I expect to see people explore this. It's only 50 mana per attack now, and then abilities don't consume mana. So a hero like Medusa, Split Shot, only the main attack uses mana. None of the other split shots apply the Revenant's Brooch until you get the split shot modifiers. Then all of them will for only 50 mana. So we might see some exploration on certain heroes where multiple of their attacks will work with Remnant's Brooch, or people who abilities like Hoodwink, her Acorn Shot does not eat up the 50 mana, but every Acorn Shot bounce will activate the Remnant's Brooch so long as you have it active. A lot of people liked Wraithband as cheap armor. It was just too popular of the like 3 basic like Bracer, Wraithband, Null Talisman. So they're just nerfing it. If you still need cheap armor, slot efficient armor, this is still going to be fine. I feel like there's got to be some Yashakaya Revenant Brooch build. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Someone figure it out. Neutral item changes. Most of the small things, the main things I want to point out to you, Safety Bubble, heavy nerfs, still a pretty decent item in my opinion. And then Bullwhip. The whip no longer interrupts movement. I think that is fantastic. Even as the regen gets nerfed, this was so counterintuitive that you're trying to run away, you need to go faster, but you're like, stop, whip, okay, go. Like, it canceled itself out, the fact that you had to stop moving while running away to get the move speed. So the fact that you don't have to do that now is a huge buff to this item, in my opinion, and the rest is all like small stuff mostly, but nice, like Craggy Coat, 8 armor, pretty solid. Kobolds rise up and then sit back down because it just does not feel like enough. So I just want to show you that one Kobold camp still cannot kill off a creep wave, or depending what they hit, sometimes they like kind of get one into deny range. But you see here, like I even cut all the trees so that they could come all fight without getting stuck. And maybe this one will enter deny range. Ooh, that one is. Let's go. Sometimes they'll get into deny range, sometimes they won't. So it's still the worst camp. You still got to be careful when you do any pulls. I recommend you do a half pull or stack it before working with a Kobold camp. I say buff this number up more, like to 6 or 9, or maybe give the Kobold soldier like 20 damage, and that way the other Kobold foreman camps aren't affected, the Kobold shovels aren't affected. Like, let's do it. Give this guy like 20 damage, make him a soldier. The Ogre Bruisers are nice. They will no longer like smash the ground when you're trying to stack them, so it's actually a stackable camp now. Hero changes. 10 more seconds on Abaddon ult. We're not really seeing him played in the pro scene all that much, but he's a very good win rate in pub games. I think he'll still be a solid hero if you want to play him. Arc Warden, 2 less base strength, 0.2 less strength gain, and Spark Wraith duration down. So he is now easier to kill, and he can do less cheesy shit like, you know, stack a bunch of Spark Wraiths on runes, so like you'll literally die if you try to take it, or like Spark Wraiths across a section of the map, so like you can't sneak up on him without it being revealed. It's a lot harder. So it should be easier to get to him and then kill him, which will slow down this hero. Flame Break radius is decreasing a little bit. I still think Batrider is going to be okay overall, but it is a nerf. Chaos Knight pull distance is going up. I didn't really expect that. Yeah, he does kind of like some of the items that got buffed, and he wasn't really building Mage Slayer Diffusal, so that alone might be a buff to Chaos Knight, but I'm not really sure if this is what's bringing him back into the meta. For all 3 Chen players out there, Divine Favor, no longer free to spam, off cooldown, 75 mana cost. I think it's fair. I think it's deserved. I think he's still going to be a very strong hero if you are a good Chen player. Death Prophet is losing some movement speed on Exorcism, and she is sad that Shiva's is getting nerfed, but I think she really hated dealing with Mage Slayers, and if that drops off, I think that is pretty good for Death Prophet. So probably see more Death Prophet played. It may depend on what heroes are meta, because she is particularly good versus like tanky melee laners. If those are the other popular heroes, then we would see more Death Prophet. Doom is 100% picked or banned in the pro scene, typically banned because no one wants to play against it. So we're changing it. Scorched Earth move speed down 1%. The talent for extra Scorched Earth damage also going down. And then the Doom duration is going down by 4 seconds at level 1. When you are ganking with Doom, this is not really going to matter that much. But these 4 seconds, along with like the Veil nerfs and the Shiva's nerfs, which was his favorite build, the solo kill potential of Doom, which is like he catches you out away from your towers and he dooms you and runs next to you with Scorched Earth and then buffs it all up with Veil, and he just runs after you for 16 seconds. Like, he could solo kill almost anyone. So now with 4 less seconds, it is still possible to be solo killed, but there's going to be more room for you to actually get away and then live and prevent him from solo killing you. He needs to like actually have some teammates up to help him. I think Doom is still going to be a great hero, so if you've been playing Doom, I don't think you should stop, but maybe we'll actually see him in the pro scene. Like, some pros will allow him to slip through the draft because they think he is now a little bit more manageable. Or not, we'll see. Dragon Knight's ult is being nerfed, but it's the level 18 and Ags version. So like before, it had 40 attack slow, move slow. That is dropping to 30, and then instead of 60 at max level with the Aghanims, it is now 45. So certainly the Aghanims 18 is weaker, but I think it's still pretty annoying, like this Manta Ags build, and I saw a couple Dragon Knights. I think it'll still be okay, but he will be squishier if he still builds Mage Slayer, like Mage Slayer magic resistance down, this Ags resistance down, but BKB better, I don't know, compensating. Yeah, I think he's just going to be a little bit weaker to magic damage and be a little less annoying with the ultimate, but still a viable hero. Probably still on the better side, like in the top, like, I don't know where exactly, but one of the top tiers if I had to guess. You might be surprised Ember's not seeing harder nerfs, but he was the Mage Slayer builder. I think Mage Slayer was the big reason he was at the top of the meta. And even in the pro scene, he was starting to drop off and be ignored a little bit. So I think buffing up his mana cost a little bit and then all the other nerfs is fine. The cast range on Malefice is dropping from 600 to 450 at level 1. That's pretty painful for support Enigmas who you want to max Eidolons. Vlad's got nerfed, but you're probably still building that. And it's just going to be harder to contribute from further away. Core Enigmas level up faster and they'll get Malefice back up, but it will affect them in those early levels as well. I'm not fully sure where Enigma's going to drop off. This combination of Malefice plus Vlad's probably still okay in the right matchups, but maybe less popular. Faceless Void was arguably the best carry in the last patch, losing 1 base armor, time dilation no longer an amazing 1-point value spell. You're going to have to actually level it up if you want it to get to the 60% progression slow. Time lock, I don't think this matters. I didn't really even realize this worked on creeps for longer, so I don't think that's a huge deal. The talents are a little bit of a pain. He's going to lose damage in these like solo chrono kill attempts, but he will still be fine in the right games, but it just like every single game won't be a Faceless Void game. It might actually depend on the rest of the draft. Slight Hoodwink nerf. Yes, Mage Slayer got nerfed, but she didn't have to build Mage Slayer, although she loved to. I think she'll still be a fantastic support. Leshrac, question mark, Diabolic Edict, more damage per explosion. Pulse Nova, a little cheaper to activate, and some of the items he likes did get buffed. Mage Slayer really ruined him. If that drops off enough, maybe Leshrac comes back. His win rate is going up, so I guess time will tell. Lion's Mana Drain build got hurt a lot, so Mana Drain itself, 5% less slow or bonus movement speed, and then the Shard lost some magic resistance, lost the extra bonus break distance, or decreased by 200, and then if you lose sight of the heroes you are draining, the extra secondary targets, it'll just end it, even if they're not out of range. So if they run around a tree, for example. So I don't know if this is enough, because honestly, Mana Drain is still really annoying in the laning stage to lose all your mana, and then to also be able to give it to allies. Like, that element is still really good, along with the damage you are dealing to the enemies while doing it. But if the Shard is bad enough, like, yeah, I don't know, maybe it's not worth it. Especially because Earth Spike, if you're not maxing Earth Spike like you used to, it's now sitting at a longer cooldown. So I have not tried Lion myself yet, but I kind of think he'll still be an okay hero, just not like every single game, position 4, position 5, cookie cutter build, exact same build every single game, high impact, right? Like, I actually think there's going to be more adapting, like, oh, it's not actually good Mana Drain, I won't max it this time. But I'm not sure, guys, so I'm going to have to explore this more and then let you guys know. Lone Druid's got to be more careful with his level 1 bear. It is slower, and the cooldown is longer if it dies, so you can really ruin his early game if you kill that bear now. Magnus, I guess a niche interaction here, a bug more likely, was fixed, and then some talent nerfs. I don't play that much Magnus. It seems still fine. I could be wrong. I'm not sure how much these talent nerfs hurt, but he feels like he still does a lot of the same stuff, just like a little worse in the late game. Meepo nerfs, I'm sure many of you are glad for this. More killable, Dig, going to restore less health. Mega Meepo, he's going to get less stats from the Meepos, and then the Disperser nerfs. So maybe there'll be a new Meepo build. He was so insane on the right players. It is still fine, I think. Like, in the right games for Meepo, which is still a good chunk of games in the right hands, but instead of like every single game being a super broken hero with no counters, I think it is getting more, it is easier to deal with a Meepo, but I did get Meepo today, so like it can still win. Nature's Prophet, 3 base damage, harassing in the lane is harder. Sprout, the damage looks like it's higher at max level, but it is losing the linger duration. You may not have realized that, but Sprout does its damage in half-second intervals, and it would do it instantly. So even though 3 seconds, you might think, okay, half-second, six intervals of damage. There was an instant one, so that was 7, and then there was a lingering one, so that was 8. So it is losing that 8th interval and is now 7 if they stay in Sprout the whole time. So if they are in Sprout the entire duration at max level, it is about the same damage as before. But if they leave early at any point, you are doing less damage. Teleportation also got nerfed, so the cooldown is starting at 75 seconds and eventually makes its way all the way back down to 30. But if you're maxing Sprout first and you're going like 4-2 build, then it's going to still be at 60 seconds now, whereas before it was at 50 seconds. So I think Natures will still be good. Not first phase picked banned every single pub game, but you actually like really have to know what you're doing with Natures. And there maybe it's a max teleport build rather than a max Sprout build. I'm not fully sure yet. I haven't gotten to play him because he is still being picked and banned all the time. No one wants to deal with it, but I think it'll drop after a little bit. I will try him out and I'll let you guys know where I think he falls. His win rate did drop. I mean, these are all fairly sizable nerfs, but he is so unique in what he offers, that like global rotations, flexible item builds. So I still think there's a place for it. I think he's still going to be great in pub games. You need to spend the time to like know how to do it well. Omni Knight Repel is going to nullify pure damage, which is great, but I still don't think he's going to be awesome. I could be wrong. We'll see, I guess. OD, slight nerf to his Ag, still a pretty good hero, especially because Yasha Kaya is looking kind of good. It might be some nice OD games here. PA, slight buff to agility gain and cast range on level 1 Stifling Dagger, which will make her laning stage a little bit more consistent, a little safer. I don't think she's really like in the meta yet. Slark, 2 seconds on the cooldown for Pounce, which is big on a hero who wants to weave in and out of fights. So that will add up, along with the fact that Mage Slayer and Diffusal both got nerfed. He loved those items. Doesn't really love building BKB, like that one getting buffed. Doesn't really like the items that got buffed. So that should hurt Slark. Terrorblade is getting 2 base strength, which is quite a lot, especially considering you only had 16 before. So a good bit tankier in the early game. Cooldown on a reflection going down. Big counters in like Slark and Faceless Void being nerfed. Terrorblade's win rate is going up, and he's looking good. Timbersaw is sad that Shiva's got nerfed. But Flamethrower nerf, not a huge deal in my opinion. Same with this stat nerf, or the stat percentage loss on Whirling Death Talent. I think that the fact that Mage Slayer might be dropping off and Diffusal, which he doesn't like dealing with, right? The fact that those are decreasing in popularity might actually mean that Timbersaw is still in a great spot despite these nerfs to him and his items, especially depending on what heroes become popular. Like if there's a lot of strength melee heroes, then Timbersaw is still going to be great. So we're going to have to see who else is popular, but I think Timbersaw is still going to be okay. Vengeful Spirit, some nerfs here. Magic Missile cooldown is a little bit sad, but not a huge deal. Wave of Terror by the end is fine, but it did lose 25 damage at level 1. This makes it a lot harder to last hit range creep safely. Like if you're trying to secure it, I was missing several today when I tried her out. So you got to be aware of that. Otherwise, I think she still does pretty much everything she did before, just like slight nerfs to these, so you can still play her. Viper's getting another Toxin nerf, and then the max range radius on Corrosive Haze, how far you can stand away while still getting it applied to you. I think that the preferred Viper build is being able to max Q against a favorable matchup and just wreck him in the lane anyways. So in those situations, he will still be good, but at times where like that wasn't working and you have to farm up more, like that has been nerfed. So Viper feels more niche now. Like I gotta get a good matchup and I gotta play that way. I'm sure he can still like flex a little bit, but that's what these nerfs feel like to me. And then Witch Doctor Ags no longer grants True Strike, so it's just going to be worse versus like a hero like PA, which the pro scene doesn't really play Witch Doctor anyways. I'm sure in your pubs, you'll still get lots of early kills before evasion becomes a big deal and you pick up this Ags anyways, so I'm sure he'll still be okay in his like 53% win rate or something in the pub scene. To wrap things up, here are some heroes I am keeping my eye on. Nothing, like, I'm not saying these are going to be the best or the worst heroes or whatever, just like things that were buffed, things that were nerfed. For those of you that like aren't sure what to play, you want something stable, safe, Luna wasn't touched, and she was a very solid pick in the last patch, so I think she's still looking good. Puck wasn't touched, he seems fine. Medusa maybe going up because like less diffusal, some asshole draining lions not like in less games, so maybe she's looking better. Who else? Mars wasn't touched, although the Vlad's nerf, maybe he's a little sad about. I think Veno looks good, especially depending what heroes become popular. He already has a good pub win rate, but not seeing a lot of professional play. But now that some of the top supports got nerfed, like we might see him rise in popularity. Venge did get nerfed. I still, like, this is like the good side, bad side, if you didn't piece that together. She is nerfed. I think she'll still be fine. I think she'll still be a stable pick. Her nerfs do not feel as bad to me on paper as like Natures and Lions. Techies didn't get touched. He was pretty solid. Hoodwink barely touched. Enchantress not touched. Chen was nerfed. I still think he's good for like the 3 of you that play him. Enigma nerfed. Maybe a little bit more of a specialist thing if you're going to want to play him, but might still be fine. DK probably still fine. Doom still looks good. So yeah, thank you for watching. Remember, this is just day 1 impression, so of course things may be wrong. Shift around. Let me know if you think I missed something. I'd love to hear it. I will update you guys as I learn more in future videos. Thank you for watching. Good luck out there. Win your games. Tell them it was all thanks to me. Bye.